Hello, everyone, and welcome in to the Unapologetic Woman Hour, an opportunity to dive deep into conversation with change makers, healers, and leaders that are up to powerful experiences to help us all feel a little bit more unapologetic in our lives, in our health, in our work, and in our relationships. And today I have a wonderful guest, Marie Fratoni, who's going to be sharing a little bit about being unapologetic in your leadership. And I wanted to first off just share with you out there, whether you're a business owner or not, this is a great opportunity for you to listen on in. We can be leaders in the communities we are a part of. We can be leaders in our homes. We are constantly empowering people and inspiring people by who we are when we are in their presence. So I encourage you, as we dive into this conversation today, just be here with an open mind and open ears and see maybe how your leadership can be transformed. So Marie, I would love for you to share with the community just a little bit about who you are and who you serve.
Thanks. Thank you so much. I love this topic. It's really interesting. It can be very barbed, for a lot of people about apologizing for who we are. We need to stop apologizing. So, unapologetically, I'm Marie Fratoni. I live in Atlanta and I work everywhere. The name of my business is called Get Clients Everywhere, and that's what I do. Is I teach mostly women entrepreneurs to really know who they are, what they can do, how they can really find their clients everywhere. And my purpose is really about helping women entrepreneurs connect and prosper unapologetically.
Yes, I love it. Marie, definitely the first time I met you, I could feel that unapologetic flair for sure. We met in a wonderful community together. And I always say when my intuition kind of nudges me that I want to get to know somebody more, I've been trusting that way more than anything else, way more than fancy copy, fancy website. It's like, if I get that intuitive nudge when I'm in the presence of someone, to me, that is powerful work. And I love that you said you are Marie Fratoni unapologetically. And so many of us are saying, sorry for so many things. And I was just recently talking with someone about when we're in business, it doesn't necessarily have to be business, but when we're in business, we have to try new things out, right? We're constantly learning how to maybe make an offer, learning how to create some new marketing. As a business owner, we're thinking about those things. And when we're putting new stuff out there and maybe it completely flops, there's this like draw to say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Or we make a mistake because there's this idea of perfectionism. I think it's with the way social media has kind of turned into like filters and everybody's life is always on high, that it's not okay as much anymore to be in the mess, but we all know everybody has their mess, living in that. So what have you experienced in the work, that you do, but also like in the life you've lived, about being in the mess, about living unapologetically, and were there any challenges that you've had in your life?
Yes, 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 and yes. It's like, oh my goodness, life is messy. There's no question, and I don't think any of us escapes humanity. And but I do want to like cycle it back to the unapologetic piece of it because I think that's something that in cultural ways, women have been acculturalized to be less than and to be not seen as somebody who's like standing for themselves, standing up for themselves. A lot of things, personally, as well as just environmentally, socially, in the media, all of these things. And so I find women often will apologize for making a mistake, for interrupting, for saying something that's unkind, for saying something that is true. And I think that part of being a leader, part of being a CEO and a business owner is really owning it all. And that's all, that includes the messy part as well. There's been lots of messy parts of my life. I've been in this business for a long time. It's taken different turns. None of it's been perfect. And just recently, I had to send out a message and I had to be unapologetic and clear in my stand. I actually had to get cleared by several good friends to even say, should I write this? Should I not write this? because I didn't want to have people be mad at me. But what I
Mm,
found was I found my authentic voice in it, what I was trying to say, because I wanted to I wanted to urge people to really wake up, to come present, to get paying attention again to their communications, to step aside from all the stressors that all of us have been going through, whatever they
yes.
are, and to really come present to what is it that you want for your life. Do you want to be a victim of the stressors, or do you want to move beyond that? And that's hard because people are dealing with things that I don't really know. But in order for me to give my message, I wanted to get cleared. I had to be unapologetic, and just really say what's there. And I think sometimes as a leader, we have to give the bad news along with the good news, along with the nice news, along with the encouragement. And what if you did it this way? And that just doesn't land. It doesn't fall right. It doesn't, it's not going to connect. And sometimes that's hard to do. And for women, I think in particular, it's very hard to do, to give bad news sometimes. It's not really bad news, but it's hard to hold that line sometimes, I think.
Oh, I would 100% agree. I had a kind of awakening moment in my business as a leader when I was going through a lot of hard times. There was a lot of loss. So I was processing a significant amount of grief. And at the same time, because of that, I had some health issues come up. And I was constantly trying to be on all the time. And there was
Hard.
that part of me was like, no, Tracy, you need to go inward now. You need to nurture, and hold this time as sacred in this, not necessarily, they call it, the darker moments. And it was, I constantly was being pulled in both directions. No, you're supposed to be, businesswoman, you're a healer and you're supposed to help people. So you got to look this way. And finally, one day in my community, I was holding an event and I just broke down in tears. And I was just like, all right, guys, can I kind of be honest with you? This is what's been going on in my life the last 6 months.
Yeah.
The amount of feedback and the amount of gratitude I got from people saying, thank you for being a real person. Thank you for sharing your story. And the change I made in those people's lives by just being vulnerable was powerful. Now, I'm not saying when I'm on and the healing work I do is invaluable, but there's something to be said about being there in that, that mess and that vulnerability. And it helps everyone to see that we're all human. We're all here on this thing called life together. No one's better than anyone and when it comes to being a human being. And I had a truly it was changed my life, the way that I work in my business, just
Well, it's
practicing
awesome
vulnerability.
because people, you know, I'll just share this kind of little personal thing for me. I'm Italian. I'm from Boston. So, it's like I don't mess around with things. It's like, hey, then I moved to Atlanta in the South where everybody's polite. And it's like sometimes that doesn't go right. So I'm not going to say, hello, precious. That's not authentic for me. But if I can just say, get that thing, stop doing that, get over there, that's really authentic to me. And I can't be apologizing for who I am and how I was raised, what the culture is that I was raised in. Because a lot of times, I mean, frankly, I just know. I have great recognition magic. I'm very intuitive. I'm very well trained. I have a really big heart, but it doesn't always land that way. And so I have to sometimes work with my clients and let them know and say, if I get a little harsh with you sometimes, it's like tough love or whatever. I'm never, ever going to say anything that's going to harm you, hurt you, or do anything. And sometimes what I have to do is create, I don't have one in front of me, but sometimes I have a heart on a piece of paper. And I would have it by me so that I can remember to come from my heart and not always hear. Because I don't want to have to apologize for some of my words and my attitude and my tone, because it sometimes is a little bit different. I had to kind of learn some things as I moved from Boston to Atlanta, which culturally it's different. You might know a little bit of that being a Northeast.
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
from the Northeast and I moved to Florida. So yes, I understand it completely. There are a lot of us Northeasterners though, where I live in Orlando. So
yeah.
sometimes I
You're
just have to
you're
go
at
hang
home.
out with my hang out with my northerners that are southerners now. Get fed. But yeah, I 100% agree with you, Marie. It can be culturally something for all of us to practice our unapologetic qualities. It's like just because we move somewhere new or we get a new position or we start a family or whatever it is, there's no right way to do it. It's do it your way, and then you'll be able to maneuver through the challenges.
You know, there's a lot of language that comes in. It's not even our own language. It's like inherited language where we're saying things like, you know, I'm privileged or I apologize, you know, let me think if I can say what I want to say here. Um, we're we're making space like it's almost like we're unworthy.
Mm.
There's a place of unworthiness that, you know, many of us grew up with, you know, that says we're less than, we're not good enough, we're walking on hallowed ground, you know, somebody else's thing. It's like if we can get so strong in ourselves that we know who we are, we know what it is that we do, we feel really strong about the work that we provide in the world, you as a healer, me as a business consultant. I mean, I know, I mean, I've sold a bazillion kinds of things in my life and helped other people to do that. So I just have a confidence about it because I've done it. You know, I could go back and I could track it. I don't need to apologize for the fact that I'm a powerful businesswoman. Now, in some circles where there might be other people involved, I might not blast that because I that's called just being smart. But it's like I don't want to ever be less than who I am, and I wouldn't ever want any of my clients or my colleagues to be less than who they are and to stand tall in their convictions. But we can hear it in the language that we use sometimes, you know, and that I think is sometimes it's cultural. Um,
It's very cultural. I actually was learning this in some training that I took, that the English language in particular generates more shame than other languages. You would know this from the Italian language. The way that we in the English language talk, we're constantly identifying ourselves as that thing, the way that just the language itself is built. So I am a fraud. I am a failure, not I failed at something. It's different. And actually, the way that our nervous system then tells our mind that it literally creates our identity around it. So linguistically, as English language, we're already getting thrown at that, and then we put in the cultural aspects of being a woman into it as well, where I am seeing the transformation. Like I'm seeing women being more bold, being more unapologetic. I think we had that trend of like women saying, I can do this, but they put themselves in the masculine energy, the male environment. It was like, I can do what you do. But I'm starting to see that women are now creating their own rules, their own standards of, no, I'm not going to do it your way and put my own spin on it. I'm going to do it my own way. Are you starting to see that, just as the women you're starting to see, whether they're your clients, your colleagues, or just women leaders in general? Are you starting to kind of notice that transition into this new story?
well, I think this is the time for the divine feminine is rising.
Yes.
We can see it all over the news. Women are just like unrealistic to, or not unrealistic. They're unwilling to be okay with the way things are for them and their sisters and their colleagues in the world.
Mhm.
And the ones that really care about that will actually create their voice. And so when I say culturally, I just mean like systemically around the world, not even so much in language, but what you said is really true. Our language creates the, you know, the neural pathways about that. But it's just like looking at, if we look at the government, you know, it's like I don't have any shame in any upset about saying how I feel about women's rights, about women's anything that's here. We still don't have equal pay for equal work. I'm not ashamed about saying that publicly. We don't have rights about all kinds of things in our life as women. We're still second class citizens. And that's why I'm so committed that women really make that boatload of money. I mean, it's hard to, you know, to kind of say some things like this because we can't be taken seriously in a world that's run by for the most part, white male egos to be able to affect change.
Yes.
And we have to get really strong. And sometimes money is equated with power. And so, there's a lot of really great books about women's sex and power and men's sex and power that were written ages ago that really have such a ring of truth, today. And I think it doesn't have to be big. It's not like I'm not going to run for office or anything like that. But even on social media, I'll say certain things and I'll invite a conversation. And what's amazing is how many people can't have a conversation today. They come from a place of it's not even being unapologetic. They just like bash you for having a different thing. I'm not interested in bashing anybody, but I'm interested in holding my ground and knowing where it is that my values come from and be able to speak that because I've been able to do some things in my life that have been very pioneeric and I'm grateful. I never planned to do any of that stuff. I just, ended up having really good jobs with great businesses. And there was a time in the 80s, in the mid 80s, when assertiveness training was really very big. It's just really basically good communication skills and different choices. But I can remember I worked with a very large management association, probably one of the largest ones in our country, with the very first one in our country. Um, and I can remember I was teaching assertiveness training, and I can remember one of the guys that I worked with, and they were terrific guys. They put a cartoon from the New Yorker on my door that had a cartoon of this woman with a big overcoat and two big briefcases that said assertiveness training barge right in. And that was his way of making a joke. Well, if anybody knows anything about assertiveness training, assertiveness is all about win-win. It's
Hmm.
all about win-win. If it's
Yes.
not assertive, then it's aggressive or it's non-assertive. And I stand that most women in the marketplace, in the business, as they're starting their businesses, are coming from a place of non-assertiveness. They haven't
Mm.
learned to take their ground, and that's where they're always apologizing, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes total sense. Ooh, I'm getting the goosies.
I mean, so you can see I'm trying to formulate a good thing to say here that would make a difference for the listeners, but it's even like, kind of on the fly here. It's like kind of hard to do that, but that was their joke or when we started to create a division for women because we noticed that mostly the people that we were dealing with in the association nationally, they were all women. And I just said, this is the time for women. It was the time for the Equal Rights Amendment to be ratified, in 1980s. Women's groups, the first women's groups came onto the focus, in those days. And we had to be unapologetic. There had to be pioneers. There had to be leaders that were willing to risk to say, I'm going to own it. In your area, you're owning it. You have wise working women. You own it. You started it. You created it. It's like, your stuff is on the line. And you're very unapologetic about how you run it, how you lead it, how you invite people. That provides a great service. We need more people that will actually do that in their own business and not be so shy about asking for business or putting their information out there to align with people that can help them, get that out there because this is really our time. And if we miss this opportunity, I'm afraid we miss this opportunity.
Yeah, it is, as you said, the feminine energy is rising. It's giving us this opportunity. And I like the way you explain the assertiveness. I think a lot of people will really resonate with that because you mentioned earlier, and we all know it, there's like that toxic, ego-driven masculine energy. Masculine energy isn't a bad thing. We need it.
Right.
It's the container, it's the safety that we need. But without the feminine energy, then masculine energy is just there with no purpose. So it's the time now to bring in the feminine energy. Feminine energy is about free flowing expression. And when we can be of ourselves authentically, then masculine and feminine actually finally get to work together. And I think we're seeing that. We're definitely seeing that trend. But what Marie and I are talking about here, and as all you listening to it, keep an eye out though for those people that are trying to trick you into thinking they're speaking the truth or creating, some kind of movement or something. If there's ego in it, or if there is this fear based agenda that I think is starting to come up more now, Like that's a time to step back in and connect back with self, honor values. I think that was a great way for what you shared, Marie, is a great way for people to kind of have their own compass, is to get out of the ego and the fear, toxic masculine, come back to values, come back to
Yeah,
your
and
values.
for me, it's okay if it's ego driven because we're human,
Oh,
and
of course.
human beings. It's that. It's when we lose sight of. I think what happens is a lot of times, what people do is this is what I've just seen lately, as a lot of people that are trying to become an influencer. Now, I'm influenced by a lot of things, and I like connecting with people that really lead me forward,
Yeah.
that inspire me and that I'm following, and they're like, wow, I love their take on things. There's a lot of people that are just out there. I don't know what it is that they're really doing. It's not landing with me, which is okay. It's probably I'm not probably meant to land with it. But it's like it takes something to really know like what you're influencing about. Like
Mm.
what's your stand about certain things. Now obviously we're here with entrepreneurs, and so to keep the focus here, business wise, I just want people to not copycat everybody on the planet because they took a business course somewhere. Then they're going to be like their business coach, and they're going to teach all the same things that they do when they don't really have a business, and now all of a sudden they're going to be a business coach. That's like they should apologize for that. Because it's inauthentic. And I just see so many people that are doing that. It takes a lot to really get ourselves grounded and certain and clear about who we are and also who we're not. I'm not going to be a big empire builder. That we have a lot of wonderful coaches and people that are amazing at that, but that's not me. I'm not trying to build an empire. I'm actually trying to like create my retirement, so I'm kind of in that space. And I'm not apologizing for that. you know but I think it just is really nice when people really show up and they have come wherever it is that they're going with an open mind. They can receive the information, sift through it, keep what works for them, let go of what doesn't work for them, and not necessarily make everybody bad and wrong and whatever. Is to find that true authentic self for themselves. And sometimes when we speak authenticity, we're not being authentic. We're just speaking authenticity because that's a buzzword.
Yes.
And if we speak authenticity and say that and use that in our marketing, then people are going to like us because we think we're authentic. What we're really doing is copying somebody else's copy.
Yep.
So, how can we learn to stand for ourselves? You were talking earlier about honoring ourselves, honoring others, is by really, looking at what makes sense. I mean, now I'm at a stage in my life where I'm kind of figuring out a lot of what I was doing in the past, which has been very good. It's solid stuff. It's not landing inside for me. And I put it out because it's like, oh, some people are saying, oh, where's this program? But you know what? The truth is, I'm not aligned with that anymore. It's something I did, it's something that served its purpose. But I think what I would say unapologetically is for whatever reason, and there are probably lots of them, the footing that we have today is a bit unsure.
Mm.
People aren't going out to live events. They're not having live events. If they're having online events, it's so cluttered. Attendance is really low at live events. Attendance is low at online events. It's just different. And so I think this time has really caused all of us to, as you said earlier, go inside and do the work for ourselves and look at where do we want to spend our time? How do we want to spend our time? And I've just been invited all of a sudden to by three different companies who have invited me to do some leadership, supervisory, and sales training for their employees. I haven't done that in almost maybe 25, 30 years, but I spent a good 20 years doing that in major corporations around the world. And all of a sudden, it's like my phone is ringing. Are you available to do this? And
Oh.
it seems like, there's something about when we find ourselves and go back to our true north. It doesn't make any difference if we're coaching or training or leading workshops or running events. Whatever it is that is bringing you joy, that's matching your vibrations, and that you're clear about the value that you're bringing, we don't ever need to apologize about that. And I think when we start to apologize, it's because something is off inside of us. that we're less than, we're not good of, you used the word before about like, I'm the fraud, or am I a, what's the word that that people always talk about? Um, it's escaping me, whatever it is. But when they're pretending, like, what if people really knew me? What if they really knew the
Mhm.
dark side of Marie? What if they knew all the bad things I did in high school and college? And it's like that's I'm kind of an open book. I mean, I talk a lot about some of the things that I did that now is hilarious to me, but I'm just like lucky that I didn't get into some big trouble. So, but I can't apologize because that's all part of the fabric that makes Marie.
Yes. I think that's a wonderful way to kind of bring our conversation to a close, Marie, is the fabric of our lives. And it is everything from our childhood to growing up to who we are now presently, and also seeing where our future leads us. I find, and I think this would be a great closing question for you, is I find when I can just trust who I am each day, my future unfolds with more ease.
I love
When I
that.
try to assume what's going to happen in the future, challenges seem to knock at my door. And when we're looking in a level of leadership, as we've been explaining here, I would love your thoughts on that as we close out. Is we're looking at the future, how we want to impact more people or create more leadership. What would be some tips you could share with the community about how to really step into your future self?
Well, it's a big question. I think for myself, one of the things that I've done a lot this year in particular is I've spent a lot of time by myself. I've journaled, I've been taking a lot of different courses, been reading, listening to amazing podcasts. I'm so inspired by podcasts because there's such interesting thoughts. And if all I know is my little circle, then I'm just relegated by my little circle.
Yeah.
And so I know that for me to be, keep not just watching TV and eating chocolate. I have to be inspired and, and doing some things. So I think it takes some time to really look at what is it that, there's a lot of things that women can do. We can do them because we're able and we're capable of doing all kinds of things.
Yes.
The question I think that can help us hone in is what is it that we really want to do? What is it that we really think we know we're really good at? We can provide some value. And if somebody says, oh, by the way, can you do this for me for 5 minutes or whatever? It's like, no, you don't have to do a zillion things. You can take one thing or two things or maybe even three things that you do really well, that you enjoy doing really well, and that you know that you can stand tall in what it is about the transformation that you provide, and then go do that. And for me, it's like, as I mentioned, some of the classes that I've been teaching, I mean, I've been teaching classes in business for a long time, and they've always been really good. There have been a couple of things that I've run this year that no one has registered for. No one. I've never had that happen before, ever. And so I look at it, I don't take it personally. It's just where the world is. People are shy about taking steps. But I also look at, like, what is it that my messaging is off, that it's not landing. And part of it is because it's not landing here. It's
Mm-hmm.
something I can do. It's something people know me for. But am I going to be great if I don't teach it? Yes. So what's really important to me now is, as we mentioned earlier, is I'm really putting the focus on really leading more retreats. I've been leading retreats for probably about 20 years. And not all of them are in Italy or not all of them are overseas, but the intensive work. And I just think there's something very special about that container time, and the
Mm-hmm.
camaraderie that happens. And when you unplug from your regular life and step away from the office, then I think there's a lot of the truths about ourselves that can come through because it's mirrored by other people. And so that for me is of interest, to do. And it just takes some time to be willing to be in the in between, to be in the unknown, to be in the I don't know space is really
Mm.
okay because through the I don't know space, you'll get to know.
I love that. So, Marie, as we close out, I love to always end by asking each person I talk to, what does it mean to be unapologetic to you?
Just be who you are. The good, the bad, the ugly, the front of the hand, the back of the hand, the back of the hand, the front of the hand, all of it. The light, the shadow, the dark, the light, the warm, the cold. It's all part of the human experience. And just be you in the moment and be respectful and honor others in the process.
Be you and honor others. I love that. Thank you, Marie, for joining us today. I know that people might get some insights and ahas from this experience of this conversation. So I would love for you just to share with the community, how could people get in touch with you to learn more about you?
Well, I'd love for them to get in touch with me because I love meeting new people. You can send me a message at marie@getclientseverywhere.com and we'll set up a time to chat. You can go poke around on my website. There's a free gift there for everybody. And it's called the 17 Most Ridiculously Simple Ways to Magnify Your Personal Leadership. It's there for you. You're welcome to go get it and enjoy. And that's about being unapologetic. Right there, that document will help you with that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marie. Yes, get clients everywhere. Experience Marie and all the unapologetic leadership work she's doing. And all of you that are out there, thank you for joining us for our Unapologetic Woman Hour. Hopefully you've gotten some insights. So I love to say, share your ahas, share your insights from the conversation, or even share this conversation we just had with someone you think could really get a little bit more value out of it. If we constantly keep sharing and we are able to be in conversations like this, and it can get into more hands and more ears, that is, for me, one of the ways I'm trying to make an impact, is that ripple effect. So thank you, Marie, for being here for our Unapologetic Woman Hour, and all of you out there, as I always end everything, just be well. Thank you, everyone.
Be well. Thank you, Tracy.